Eric Hammer here, registered physiotherapist. Today, I'd like to talk to you about a condition called cubital tunnel syndrome and what some specific exercises you can do for this particular condition. But before I begin, please hit that subscribe button below so you'll be notified about any new videos I have here on my channel. So essentially, cubital tunnel syndrome, what it is, it's where your ulnar nerve, which is a nerve that runs down the arm from sort of the neck region, and it runs in the inner part of the elbow. It's when that nerve becomes entrapped or compressed right in through this elbow region. So, you know, when you've probably heard the term funny bone. So essentially, you know, when people hit their elbow on that inner part and they get that sort of zing down the arm, well, that's your ulnar nerve essentially that's getting compressed when we bump our elbow like that. So what can happen is there's a tunnel, so to speak, that this nerve runs through, right in through this inner part of the elbow joint. And that nerve can get compressed in through that area for a number of different reasons. And so what we want to do is essentially work on trying to mobilize that nerve in several different ways. So some of the things that can be helpful is some of the forearm muscles that run in through the inner part of the forearm here. So your wrist flexors, so to speak, when they get really tight, they sometimes can impact this compression right in through the tunnel area. So one thing that can be helpful is to actually stretch out these particular muscles. Now the key component is that the further we go into either full extension or flexion, right, the greater the likelihood of that nerve potentially getting compressed. So as you do any sort of self-massage or stretching in through the forearm area, you want to make sure, right, that this nerve doesn't produce any sort of symptoms, right? So we want to minimize symptoms, for example, like numbness and tingling that are going down into the hand area, numbness and tingling particularly into the pinky region. So in a lot of cases, we want to be really, really careful, right, about about the symptoms, about if we're actually producing these nerve-like symptoms. The other thing to consider too with cubital tunnel syndrome is you have to make sure that it's diagnosed correctly. And what I mean by that is these same symptoms that people get into the elbow area or into the hand, sometimes it can actually be coming from the neck region, can be coming from perhaps a disc-related injury in through the neck region. It can be coming as a result of a thoracic outlet syndrome. So there's a number of different potential areas where this ulnar nerve can be irritated or getting compressed. And so you really want to make sure that it's been diagnosed correctly to make sure that you're doing the correct interventions in order to correct this. So that's one area, again, in terms of trying to loosen up the forearm muscles without producing symptoms. Another thing is to make sure that you're keeping the elbow in sort of this neutral zone, right? So you're not inadvertently fully extending or flexing it if you're maybe working at a computer, for example. And then finally, right, as the symptoms start to reduce, right, you can actually start to bias the ulnar nerve in terms of a flossing type exercises, which actually helps to mobilize that nerve throughout that entire pathway from the neck region to the elbow and through the forearm area. And what this looks like is essentially side bending the head towards the arm and then going up into this position where you're bringing the arm into full flexion in through this region here. That puts a great deal of stress on the ulnar nerve. Now this would be something that would be done as a sort of a last exercise when the nerve is actually starting to settle down. It's not something that you would do earlier on in terms of the rehab process. If you have any specific questions or concerns, feel free to leave a comment below, and please make sure to check with a physiotherapist to make sure that this exercise and some of the things that we've talked about here are appropriate for you. Thanks again for watching and have a great day. Take care.